So, picture this. It's January 1st, 1980. Reverend Sun Myung Moon delivers a New Year's prayer. But this isn't just any speech. It's a strategic roadmap. We're going to dive in and break down how he used this exact moment to weave a powerful story for his followers and lay out a really ambitious vision for the decade ahead.
Right from the jump, he sets the scene on the very first day of a new decade. You can really feel the gravity of the moment in his words. He's not just flipping a page on a calendar, he's slamming the door shut on a difficult past and framing the 1980s as a totally new chapter, a fresh start full of possibility.
So where does this grand vision even begin? Well, it starts in a deeply, deeply personal place. The first part of his prayer isn't about some global proclamation. No, it's about his own origin story and his direct, intimate relationship with God, who he always calls Father.
He immediately frames himself as this chosen figure, but, and this is key, not from a place of power or privilege. By highlighting that he came from what he calls a miserable nation, he creates this incredibly powerful underdog story right from the get-go.
See what he's doing here? He's directly tying his personal mission to his national identity. This isn't just some private calling he's talking about. He's presenting it as a divine intervention in the history of Korea itself, and he is the chosen instrument for that plan.
When he looks back at his youth, it's not some golden age. Far from it. He talks about it being a time of intense struggle. He even thanks God for the toil and the tears, framing all that hardship as a kind of necessary, divine training. His personal journey and the fate of his nation become completely intertwined.
Okay, so after setting that very personal stage, the prayer starts to zoom out. He begins to lay out the history of his movement, and he describes the major milestones of the 50s and 60s as a difficult, even thorny path.
He maps out these moments that he sees as absolutely pivotal, as divinely guided signposts. You have 1950, a near-death experience. Then 1960, his marriage, which he calls the holy matrimony, with just a handful of people there. And then 1968, the proclamation of God's Day. Each one is a crucial step on that thorny path, all leading toward a much bigger goal.
He flags his marriage in 1960 as the real start of a new era for his movement. From that one event, he lays out this incredibly structured divine plan that's designed to unfold over 3 separate 7-year courses.
And right here, he brings in a critical piece of his theology. Think of it like this. God provides 95% of the power and the plan, but for any of it to actually happen, humanity has to contribute its 5% portion of responsibility. He argues that the established churches dropped the ball. They failed to do their part, which is exactly why his movement now has the chance and the duty to succeed where they failed.
Okay, so from the mythology, the story takes this massive leap. All the way across the Pacific, the prayer now shifts its focus to the 1970s, a decade that would be totally defined by the expansion of his mission right into the United States.
He talks about coming to America around 1971 to kick off his worldwide course, and he specifically chose the U.S. because he saw it as the center of the democratic world. He uses this really bold, prophetic language, like he's there to blow the trumpet and announce his arrival.
This is where he presents the 1970s as this powerful paradox. On one hand, he describes it as a decade of nonstop opposition, just filled with suffering and persecution. But in the very same breath, he declares it a glorious victory. It's this framing of triumph through suffering that is such a classic and effective message for building a really resilient group of followers.
And he's crystal clear about who gets the credit for this so-called victory. He says, look, this doesn't belong to me, it doesn't belong to my church, it belongs only to God. This masterfully reinforces the idea that his movement isn't just some human project, but that it's a critical part of a much larger divine plan.
So, having completely reframed the past as a victorious struggle, he pivots. Hard. The final part of the prayer lays out a completely different vision for the decade that's just getting started, the 1980s.
And I mean, the contrast he paints could not be more stark. The 1970s, that was the decade of tears and struggle. But the 1980s, he proclaims, will be the decade of hope and glory. He's declaring a major turning point, telling his followers the time for suffering is over. The time for happiness and light is here.
And to anchor this new decade, he doesn't just offer vague promises. He gives his followers a concrete mission, a rallying cry. Home church is the base of the kingdom of heaven. This idea of building small, local, community-level spiritual centers becomes the #1 actionable goal for every single member in the 1980s.
The prayer wraps up with this direct call to action.
He lays out the exact mindset and the level of effort that's required. It's all about taking personal responsibility, giving it everything you've got without complaint, being grateful, and having a bold, fearless attitude. The vision has now become a personal command.
He closes by zooming back out, extending the prayer to his followers all over the world, in Korea, Japan, the United States, and everywhere else. In this final moment, he unites his entire global movement under this one forward-looking vision for the 1980s.
So what's the ultimate takeaway here? This prayer is a masterclass in leadership. It shows how weaving together a personal origin story, a narrative of collective struggle, and a prophecy of future victory can create an incredibly compelling roadmap. It's a powerful reminder that for any group or movement, the story you tell about your past is absolutely essential for defining your future.